greetings. Beautiful people. Now, we'd like to talk to you about homosexuality and the movement that you call Transgenderism. A lot of people are talking about this. A lot of people have opinions about this. A lot of our intergalactic friends are talking about this. Well, not enough are talking about it. And it needs to be explained so that humanity can understand why the all that is, God, is allowing it. As some of you may know, it's no secret that our channel is a gender unicorn. One of the children of the moon, as Plato said in his Republic. There was a time on Earth where you were all hermaphrodites. The female genitals were in the back, the male genitals were in the front. Everybody had an innie and an outie. It's just the way things were. But then things got split up, and that's when the malice and the thoughtlessness, the ignorance was inserted on Earth. But we're not going to talk about that right now. What we're going to talk about is why God allows it. As you know, you are in the worst case scenario zone. And Lucifer Inc., the contrast, the competition, is the headquarters of your planet. Right? This version of Earth, this timeline, the worst case scenario zone timeline, worst case scenario zone version of Earth is where you're at. Lucifer Inc. is your God. Yahweh, Jehovah, Lucifer, all the same. This isn't new. You already know this. However, where does transgenderism fit in? Now, it's not new. If you rewind the tape a few thousand years, you're going to see that there was many Roman emperors and Romans, period. The gay Roman emperor Hadrian, during his entire reign, all of Rome, an entire nation, was aware of his love for his lover and wife, who was a man, very feminine looking man. Now we know that there are terms like sissy boy, androgynous. If you shift your focus over to China, the Chinese theater, Chinese opera singers, the men who played the female part, right, who would castrate themselves, it was of great honor, so that the testosterone would not flow into their bloodstream, so that their voices remained angelic. And they were treated like gods among men, because they were able to play the female and the male in one embodiment. And if we take our focus over to Turkey, who as a country is a Muslim country, And Hollywood executives need to revamp their history books because they have it all wrong. And we say this because in Turkey, the belly dancers, you've all seen the belly dancers, the lustrous, seductive, sensual woman, her belly shimmies across the floor, and the men are just absolutely mesmerized by her movements, flowing, and just they hand over their gold. And, the Tsars and the sheiks would come to Turkey, and the king would entertain, and the princes would entertain the others of our countries. And look what we have. And we have these belly dancers. And they will dance all night for you. And these belly dancers would get so many perks for doing what they did best. Now, do you really think that Turkey, being a Muslim country, those belly dancers were female? Think about it. Women were not allowed to show skin. It was blasphemous. So for 600 years, belly dancers, yes, 600, that's 6 with 2 zeros. 600 years, the belly dancers were men. So these big, powerful, rich, heterosexual men who were inviting other rich, powerful, heterosexual men over as hosts, as guests, and they were hosting these parties where men dressed as women, showing their navel, their beautiful skinny little abs, and they were shimmying their hips like a woman, and the whole, my God, is that a man or a woman? Oh, I'm getting a hard on. This is so enthralling, exciting. They're throwing their money at these men. And these men had special classification in society. They were treated like angels, like gods among men. And this died off. But everywhere in society, even in the animal kingdom, let's go below into the water. And if Disney would get their facts straight about Nemo, the real story when Nemo lost his little mother would have been that Nemo's father would have shifted its gender over to female so that Nemo would continue having a mother so that the clownfishes can continue on and procreate in the anemone. But for some reason, again, ignorance, we talk about this in the other message that we gave you. Ignorance. Got to keep the kids ignorant. The kids are not smart enough for this. It'll shock them. No, it won't. Who are you to decide what the kids can and can't handle? It's what you can't and can't handle. Remember what we said about the three minds? That's the parent mind. The ego, so far behind it, thinks it's first. The child is in the middle, saying, why me? What happened? What did I do wrong? Why can't I know? It's because the parent is inadequate, knows its own inadequacies, knows it does not have the tools and the experience required to present the information of such complex things about life in a very simple, clean, unperverted way. It doesn't have the tools. So it will make up some, bullshit lie. So, speaking of bullshit lies, our channel Daniel once, when he was really, really sick in isolation, and he announced that he could no longer go on this way, It was bigger than him, like a caterpillar that decides this is it. It's time to completely reshape my persona into something else and become a butterfly. Transgenderism does happen in the animal kingdom. It is not just in humans. It is a thing, and humanity needs to get it. Now, what makes certain caterpillars continue on in their caterpillar life? And other caterpillars are like, I can't go on like this anymore. I need to turn into chrysalis, and I need to turn into goo inside, and it's not pretty. Oh God, it's not pretty. This whole part is really uncomfortable. It's very awkward. I don't even know who I am anymore, and I don't know what kind of butterfly I'm going to turn into, but all I know is I need to be something else than what I am right now. And they lose all their caterpillar friends, and their caterpillar mom and caterpillar dad. They don't talk to them anymore. And the process is a very lonesome process, isn't it? But the benefit is to the caterpillar, because then it becomes a beautiful butterfly. And it even has a different diet. It's a completely other thing. And how amazing is that, to be able to do that without having to die first and have to completely rewrite an entire new plot outline in order to experience being a different gender. So when he was at the hospital, there was one nurse that he had that closed the door, locked the door, and he was bedridden, unable to walk. So he was basically forced into a situation that he did not want to be in. And this nurse came in, and she refused to call him by his new name. Now he was transitioning. The health card, the legal papers were not done yet. Because he was saving money. There was money issues, being on disability, and it seemed like the odds were against him. And but there was a request to start calling him by his new name. At the time, he wanted to be called Stefan, because that was the original name his mother was going to call him when he was born. Because they thought he was a boy at first, until the chromosome testing came through. Now this woman refused, so she was calling him by his last name all the time. And she said, she sat down in a very cold stare at the edge of the bed on a chair, and said, "My God doesn't approve of people like you." So what is Daniel to do? Stuck in a bed, hooked up to a machine, flesh-eating disease, had carved out a 20-inch deep by 20-inch wide hole on his side, unable to run, no family members to call. What do? You don't want to be having this conversation right now. You're face to face the worst part of your life, what you've been trying to run away from your entire life, because of this woman and her ignorant beliefs. My God doesn't like people like you. So, she was ignorant to the fact that he was born intersexed. She thought he was a transgender person, going through, denouncing his God-given gender, right? So what does Daniel do? Well, we whispered in Daniel's ear basically what to say. The compassion clause. The compassion clause will always break down the anger clause and the bigot clause, all the other clauses. The frame. We'll call it a clause or a frame. So he said, I was only 4. It was the blade of humanity's ignorance that made me a woman. I never asked to have my genitals sliced off. I never asked to be castrated. I was only 4. No one told me why I had to have a surgery. I had no infections. I wasn't ill. I wasn't sick. There was nothing wrong with me. It was the blade of humanity's ignorance that made me this way, into this Frankenstein concoction, a creature. The genitals are not mine. They were installed. They were removed. The masculine was removed. And later on, at 11 years old, when I started having my period, he said, because the internal was feminine, ovaries and uterus. External was masculine. They never asked, what do you want to be? They installed a vagina. A man-made vagina was installed, stone and carved right into his body without any therapy. And he said this to her, and her face dropped. I said, what was I to do? You tell me. What was I to do? It is humankind that made me this way. I'm just trying to make things right. That's what I'm doing. Because at 11 years old, not a single person thought, all these high-paid with big pieces of stamped papers on their walls, all these doctors, nurses, specialists, social workers, the psychiatrists, and even his own parents. Not a single human being. And these people were all 29 and above. Thought of asking him, well, what are you? How do you see yourself? And the defense of Daniel's mother was, well, you're only 11, you wouldn't have known anyway. And Daniel's consciousness' defense was, you never even gave me a choice. The mind was not even presented with that as an option. Therefore, how can it have contrast? How can it decide? How can it feel empowered when you're not showing the mind, even the ego mind? The grandfather knew that Daniel was meant to end his days as Daniel and live exactly 36 years, 280 periods as a female estrogen dominant being on this planet. And were it's to transition into a butterfly, the gender unicorn lost its horn at the age of 4. And it had to figure out its way through life. And it lived as a lesbian woman in the gay community and got to see an aspect of reality that brought a lot of wisdom very, very quickly. Today, Daniel jokes, it's kind of hard to be a dick when you've had your dick cut off. Literally, the source of dickness is literally carved right out of him. So in a way, he sees it as a gift. And so do we. We explained to him that it was a gift. Literally, how hard is it to be a dick when you don't have one? So he spent his entire life learning how to love women without a dick. And it's made him a better man. You should see his eyebrows. But this woman, after this confrontation, which didn't last that long actually, it went from a negative to a neutral to, you could see it in her eyes, the left, right, air checking. You could see the belief had been shattered by the tiny rock. Daniel was David and she was Goliath, and took a little rock to shatter, 30 somewhat years worth of beliefs in her mind. With the power of his words. Not a gun, not a knife, not his fists. He did not kick and scream, try to make a scene to get out of the situation. He faced it head on. The same way Socrates. He used to be Socrates in a past life. Oh yes, we have the balls to say that. That same part of him that took the cup and drank the hemlock tea and faced it is the same part that faced this nurse. And what happened? What do you think happened after that? Did she storm out? Did she change the schedule? Did not want to have him as a patient ever again? Well, to your surprise, this is what happens when you erase ignorance out of someone's reality. They become less ignorant, don't they? So, what happened to this woman? Oh, she started defending him. She called him by his name. Well, at the time it was Stefan, but his mother named him Daniel after the prophet, after his near-death experience. And he came back with superpowers. You know, us, right? She did everything for him. She would come in 2-3 times during her shift. Is there anything? Ice water? Are you okay? She even taught him how to insert an IV, because she used to teach how to insert IVs, and she was teaching the nurses and using his arm because they had to do an IV change, and he even learned how to insert IVs and start them with thanks to this lady. So you see, when you get rid of the ignorance and you install knowledge, the knowledge just feeds itself. She gave him her knowledge, he empowered her, and she now knows the difference between an intersex person, hermaphrodite, and transgender, which is the genitals. Huh? Now, today, it's a lot better. These surgeries are illegal. And, in brackets, we'd like to insert, the surgeries, both of them were done by women. So Daniel, we helped him understand his trust issues against women, why the relationships never worked, why he always attracted women who they were receivers, they were never givers in the bedroom. And this was a big problem for him. And he knows that now. And we've worked it out with him. We taught him the Zora method, like we're going to teach you. We taught him the giving it a color for energetic wounds, which we are giving you as well. And humanity will thrive with these two healing techniques. So now, transgenderism. Why is it happening? Why so much of it now? Well, it's been there all along. However, now, because the mind has seen, oh, this is a possibility for me, I want to see where this takes me. So we have beings from other planets who are choosing to take a vacation. And on these other planets, there's more than one gender. Well, there's more than 2, more than 3. And everyone is a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, you know what I mean? And what a fantastic opportunity for the soul to be able to come down and experience reality, worst case scenario zone, from the perspective of a boy, and then whether it's through a traumatic event or not, through gender dysphoria and body dysmorphia or not, start to shift and then deal with the fear, just like the caterpillar, to becoming a chrysalis, deal with the awkward stage. So it's puberty version 2.0 to become the butterfly. Now, if this process is started very, very early, as you see now, there are more people that are taking the androgen blockers at 11 or 12 years old, so they never get the facial hair, they never get the masculinization. And this is to teach humanity that the physical body, when Daniel was born in 1977, his mother was told by the endocrinologist, the specialist. Now, they knew this back in 1977, that most likely there'll be an attraction to women. Gender has nothing to do with sexuality. The sexual orientation of someone has nothing to do with their gender, and vice versa. And that in the fetus, the basic template for a human creature, the beast, the mammal, is female. And the little ingredients in the cake, as the lines of code go down on the 14th week, it tells it to masculinize the clitoris. That's all a penis is. It's a masculinized clitoris. You insert some testosterone and the Y chromosome, and you get the clitoris will go out. And the ovaries will drop all the way down into external little sacs. It's the exact same thing. The prostate is the uterus, it is the stargate, it is the fluid of life, and inside the testes is the liquid light. That's why it's white. Spermatozoa is white. The prostate fluid is clear. That is the fluid, the dark waters, the celestial waters. You create them in our image. It's exactly that. Women have a multi-dimensional stargate worth billions of dollars in technology. It cannot be replicated artificially to a machine. And yet they open their legs and they let strangers play with such a powerful device. That is not empowering now, is it? Now, this is why we teach vaginal confidence to anyone who is transitioning, or even women who have been abused, and self-worth and so on. So you have the uterus, you have the prostate, you got the prostate gland, you got the Skene's glands, the G-spot. It's all the same thing. Right? Recto verso. Front and back, masculine, feminine, left and right. Clitoris, penis, ovaries, testicles, all the same. Egg, sperm, celestial womb, liquid light, red drop, white drop. Love, the red, love and life, light and thought, intent. That's what drives the procreation process. The white, the masculine, the intent, the light. Now, these people coming from other planets, they're used to being in androgynous bodies. It feels like home, and they're bringing some of that consciousness here down to the worst case scenario zone, because it's part of the Gaia Ascension program. Eventually, 2089, hopefully, if all goes well, 2089, it should be like Men in Black. So all these movies showing refugees from other planets without having to incarnate in a human body, like literally from a planet to here. And these people, they're not black, they're not yellow and red and all these colors of Benetton that you've been, using to describe yourselves. They're literally they're not a different gender, they're a different race, they're a different being. Humanoid in shape, but they function differently. So to open the minds of humanity and get humanity out of the ignorance, it has to start somewhere. Now, you need to rise above race. So the message here, and these volunteers, these beautiful, brave volunteers, are coming down to be misunderstood, to be mistreated, to, on a personal level, experience fear, shame, perhaps regret. Some of them regret. All the children of malice, right? The 8 children of malice, the destructive emotions, as their own personal challenges of the soul. And the goal is to teach by example. So their family members, their spouses, they are there for a purpose, just like you are. And what is that purpose? That purpose is to teach those people around you, in your game, in your storyline, that love is beyond race and love is beyond gender. 2 women together having children, 2 men together having children. It is now scientifically proven that gay men are not pedophiles. They do not have the infection. The sexual energies virus does not make one gay. It will make someone interact sexually with the same gender in order to feed. It will modify the hypothalamus temporarily of the host in order to put a veil over their heterosexuality, just in order to feed. Now, we will talk about this. We have spoken about this before. Go and take a look at the Epstein and what makes a pedophile message that we gave, and we explain this, and we will keep explaining it. There is a science to pedophilia. It is not, has nothing to do with transgender, and the GLAAD Association, GLAAD, was founded, actually Ellen DeGeneres helped create this back in the late 90s, in order to portray gay, lesbian, transgendered, bisexual, queer people in a positive light in movies. So the whole Silence of the Lambs and Joe Dirt, it puts the lotion on the skin, and the man who is a cross-dresser with stockings is a psycho killer that will keep you in the basement. Now you know why that's not being shown anymore, because it is an untruth. It was ignorance. And God Inc.'s agenda is to wipe the ignorance out from your planet, because you're the last ones on the list. And you're pretty resilient, pretty tenacious, because it's pretty ingrained in you. Now, transgenderism. Now, people like David Icke will call it transhumanism. And they will say that it's a synthetic kind. It's manufactured and it's in the food. Now, we do agree, yes and no. There are factors, yes. There are mental imbalances that the mind can choose, yes. That, for instance, someone is raped, and now this is a case that we worked on many years ago, back in 2006. And the person was a psychiatric nurse, and she was raped, gang raped, on her way home from a gay bar. And the mind has created a belief that, hey, men don't get raped, and if you turn into a man, this will not happen to you anymore. So masculization began. Now, she became pregnant from this gang rape and chose to have the child. So mom became dad, and the boy is perfectly aware that the father is the one that gave birth to him and has no psychiatric damage because of that. And they live happily ever after. And never got fired from his job. Legally is living as a male in society. Now, the event of the rape is what was pre-written in this person's life in order to plant the seed to remember, not make them mentally ill, give them what's called gender dysphoria and body dysmorphia. It is for them because they understood when they were writing out their life plan how the mind would work, and this has been approved by the architects, and there's a lot of people, timeline engineers, there's a lot of people working on these incarnations for you. And it got the seal of approval from God Inc. On this day, you're going to walk home, even though it makes no sense to walk home and cut through the park. Come on, you know, it's a pretty basic horror movie script. Everybody knows not to cut through the park. But yet you're still going to cut through the park because this rape needs to occur, because this child needs to come down, and that's what they chose. The DNA is just right. And it will give you the experience. This is all an agreement that you've made before coming down here and wiping your memory with the river of amnesia drink that you drank. And then why would you put yourself through that? Well, you want to see how you're going to handle it. And you are a beacon of light. All transgender people are beacons of light. They are here to teach by example. We repeat, they are here to teach by example. Same with homosexual people. The ones that are the brave ones that act out. And they choose to stop lying to themselves, and they choose to be true to themselves. They end the repression. We have seen what repression of the sexual self can do to someone. Your sexuality, your sexual self. We don't like using sexuality. It's your sexual self, your sexual persona. It's what you like. If you repress that long enough, we have seen it, we guarantee you, you will have panic attacks. You will suffer from general anxiety disorder. It may even go into agoraphobia, being afraid of leaving your house. You will not know why. Even the psychiatrist will not tell you why. They will not be able to help you. It is because you're repressing the real you. Remember the three minds? You got the parent in the front saying, no, 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 that's not who I am, no way. And the child is screaming, absolutely putting a tantrum out, saying, I'm a dyke. I'm a sissy boy. I'm a top. I'm a bottom. I want to be that. Even in the alternative sex, I'm kinky. They want to scream it from the mountaintop. The inner child. But religion told you, no, 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 that's perversion. Yes, Lucifer Inc. is running the dungeon. But the landlord is God Inc. Lucifer Inc. doesn't own the property. God Inc. knows what's going on. Lucifer Inc. has all the strip clubs. He's got all the dungeons. He's got all the torture gardens. The booze places, the moonshine places, the escort, the street corners. But they're all leasing on God Inc.'s property. Because there's value in it. Because you're teaching by example. And have you ever seen mobsters, drug lords, how they are with their family? Most of them love each other more than you do. They'll do anything, literally, more than you will, for the sake of their daughter and their sons. They are very good people. So very evil people are capable of very powerful, intense love. So you cannot judge them. Hitler was a vegetarian. He didn't believe in killing animals. Go figure. And he was a sissy boy, right? He liked to be whipped and so on. And he got off on the, exploring the other side, the loss of power. Of course he's not in hell. So now about the transgender person. Well, if there's one around you, call them up, text them, give them a hug. Tell them thank you for being one of the brave ones. To come down here and change gender while still in the body and see how it affects the mind. And top down, bottom up, it doesn't matter. Change the mind and the body trickles it. And for having the courage to be the embodiment of the divine feminine after being the embodiment of the divine masculine, all without dying first. Because now you live in your timeline is accelerated enough that you can do that. The consciousness can handle it somewhat. Same thing with same-sex marriages, right? It's legal in many, many countries. And the next stage is gender on birth certificates. Countries such as Israel, you would think that Israel is ass backwards and a very ignorant country. However, they are one of the most progressive countries when it comes to gender. Because parents can choose to not disclose the gender on the birth certificate. So gender is undisclosed. And an Israeli passport has to be accepted in every country. And Israeli passports will not have the gender on it. So that raises a question. Why is that necessary? They look at your face. They look at the evidence. You've never done a crime. Nobody wants you. Let you through the country. Why should they judge you what's between your legs, like their imagination? What's dangling there? Well, that's very personal. And that's between that person and the person that chooses to love them. And our hearts go out to the brave ones. Because to be a man that is heterosexual, a man attracted to women, to transition to be a woman, to choose to be a double minority, because you will continue to be attracted to women, therefore to live your life as a lesbian woman, you deserve a hug and a kiss. Better yet, we would get on our knees and wash your feet. Because you are a true goddess. And to want a vagina so bad that, and believe us, Daniel knows the pain. Over 150 stitches. He's running the MS-DOS version of vaginas. It was installed in 1988. Yeah, version 1.0. Okay? Now today they're running Windows 10 version of vaginas. And he has MS-DOS version. So of course there's self-esteem issues, because even then he's not even correct, right? He needs to be corrected. And it caused them a lot of pain. Like a lot of women, their vaginas is a source of great pain. And to transition, to save that money, to go through it, you really want to be a woman big time. And in a way, that kind of even makes you more than a woman that was born into it, doesn't it? And takes it for granted. And the same goes with women transitioning to being men. You lose a lot of privileges, for one. The woman attracted to men will now be gay man, so double, single minority there. That's a tough choice. And when you look like a man and you're stuck on the side of the road, no one, not even women, are going to stop and help you. And that's something that you hang up the keys to the VIP room when you're a woman and you transition into as a man. things are more tough. And you have to listen to comments that make your vagina want to bitch slap the man. And you have to, and part of that experience, in Daniel's experience, is, again, to bring knowledge and without outing himself, making a comment that's not nice. And when you look like a guy and, sound like a guy, look like a duck, right? Sound like a duck. The men, you see them like little boys, put their head down. Oh, sorry, yeah, I guess you're right. But it's given him the experience that fuels his passion for helping women, empower women. And our message is to love yourself, by yourself, for yourself first. This message, especially for women, transgender women, well, being a man first has given them, in many cases, that self-empowerment. Being raised as a man is a gift in a way. So love yourself, by yourself, for yourself.